Hello. Yeah, I'm just sorting the records from yesterday's mayhem. And for I do it here as well, because I find it's fun to discuss how you sort your records, huh? Hello DDPD. Hello Ryan. Hello Marius. I'm alright, I'm better than yesterday. Every day better. And hello. Hello Michael. Yeah. Look at that, huh? No one knows what that is, huh? Au kiosque d'Orphée. Pretty cool French label that was oh, hello Michael.
Hey,
Hello,
finally
Michael.
I can join the stream with you.
Oh yeah, this is one it's spontaneous, so like it's everyone is welcome. If anyone, there's the link there if anyone wants to come and chat boring stuff like how you sort your records. Hello Tupelo.
Let's stay boring. Please,
Hello Frank. Come on.
Please, let's stay boring.
Okay, yeah.
I have an echo. I have an echo.
You have an echo?
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. Oh, then it's on your side, I think.
But how
could it be? Let me try something that I should not do. Which is close all my tabs on another browser. I have so many VC videos I'm watching. Do you still have the echo? Because I don't have anything. Does anyone have an echo?
Yeah. I close every.
Oh, I'm the. Wait. Snake Lord. The snake was my lord so far. Hello, Vinyl Dreamscape. RTLF! Nice. Nice to see you. Frank.
It's always interesting to me when you does something at the time. All the way. Oh my god, I have
I don't have it here. Wait, let me. Does anyone have echo else than me?
No, the problem is I have the same problem with Watchboard. You had the same time when he changed on the mic.
I can hear on your side that there's something a little bit. I don't have an echo on my side, but I can hear you are having. Like, have you tried the echo cancellation in the settings? Hello, Roger. Nice to see you.
Yeah, I have activated it.
Yeah, so people have echo. So let me try something. So maybe it's coming from my end.
Test. Well.
Let's see if I can.
It's not chemically induced. Are you sure?
Oh God, I hope I didn't do something terrible. How is it now?
Test. Same.
Okay, so it was not from me. It's from your end. Michael. But people are hearing that, not me though.
I have no idea.
Let me see if I have a setting here.
Microphone. Yes.
And do you still have it?
Test. No, I don't have it.
Okay, this is strange. Oh no, yeah. So I put echo cancellation on my end, which is weird because I have nothing else open. But anyways, we solved it.
I haven't anything open too, so nowhere. Oh. Can you hear me? It's strange now without the echo.
Oh, someone is saying you still have oh no, okay, now it's gone. Okay, so it was me. Do you know what that is?
This is a painting and it looks like a 7-inch.
Yeah, it's a
Or
7-inch.
you have huge hands.
Maybe both, but this is also the proof of how crazy I am, because I bought this record only for the cover.
This is not crazy. This is the best method of buying records.
No, but I knew I don't. It's not that I like it. I mean, it's fine, but I bought it because I have a record from the same label. This is a generic sleeve from them,
Mhm.
and they've been around since the 50s, since the beginning of records. It's a label um, réalisé pour vous par le kiosque d'Orphée, produced for you by the Orpheus kiosk,
Mhm.
which means that yeah, it's a label that had no artistic direction. Basically, if you wanted to do a record with a very small pressing, under usually 100 copies, sometimes 200, back in the 50s,
Mhm.
60s, 70s, when that was like, what? No, we can't do that.
Exactly, because that was the
Yeah,
uh,
it was
best
much more
time.
difficult to do that then than now.
Yeah.
So there were some specialty small pressing plants labels, and one of such was this, which
Mhm.
means that they pressed a lot of, amateur poetry, religious text, political speeches, and
Mhm.
vanity pressings, basically. And
Vanity? What are vanity
vanity
pressings?
pressing is a record that is not pressed with intention of making business with it, but like, I want my music to exist for
We
what?
go to Den Bosch and Santi, now we make a record of it. Come on, and let's do 20
Yeah,
copies of it. Okay, for some. Okay, okay, okay.
yeah. And there's a few labels like that. The most famous one in France is Kiosque d'Orphée, which is a great name, a bit sophisticated, but every they did a lot of 7 inches, and every decade or so they changed the generic art. It's always kind of the same, or subtle variation on the colors. So I have one 7 inch from 1969, which is very dear to me. That came
Mhm.
without the cover. I have no idea if it originally came with a generic cover, because I'm the
Mhm.
only one who has it on the internet. But I thought like, I'm gonna go the extra way. Like 12 years after finding it and getting it, I'm getting just a random generic cover of the label,
Yeah.
time matching. It has to be one that was the one they had when it was released. and uh, and I made an order I like the
Just
record that
double check it. But that makes total sense, Dante.
it's
Come
stupid.
on.
It's
Come on. We're talking about a rare record, a
Yeah,
record
but
that means a lot to me, to you. And from the collector's standpoint, that makes total sense.
so the record that came with it, not the one I put in it, is the 1968 30th of March. It's the party for the girl intern broad how do boarding school. It's a
Okay.
religious girl boarding school. um End of the March, yeah.
Do us
And
all a
it's
favor, Stanti, and play this record on your next Friday stream
I
at
don't
the
know about that.
Come
It's called
on.
Singing Around the World. It's very kumbaya, huh?
Yeah, that's right. Maybe it's amazing.
Yeah, I don't know.
What an, but again, I don't think that's crazy at all. This is just enthusiasm, and I really like that you did it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm checking if anyone has any objection to my madness, or is like comforting me, confirming me. Or Roger has some objection with your curtains, though. He's saying that they probably are. Uh, oh no, no.
Yeah, but if so, he's right. I think I have to change them eventually. Somehow they are getting outdated. I want something new
Uh,
eventually.
Ryan here is asking something about your turntables. For those who don't know Michael here, Michael has bought a new turntable that is like NASA uh, robot they're sending
No,
to. Usually
no.
they send it to space to find a new alien form to say, "Don't come to us. We are better than you."
No, that's so not true. Because in a way, it's just a sophisticated piece of mechanics, and that's what I love about it. It's quite the opposite of NASA in a
Yeah.
way. But to answer Ryan's question, no, far from it. I would love to have way more time to listen to records, but
So,
I
what
do
is
it.
a burning period for a turntable? Because when I buy a turntable, it doesn't have that, or maybe it does, and I wasn't aware of it.
I totally get your point, and don't get this phase wrong. It doesn't mean that it sounds terrible and then it starts getting
I know
better.
it's an honest question. I was a
No, no,
mere honest
but
curious.
over a certain period of time, things really get better because the most important part and the part that needs this play in time is usually the cartridge. You know, when it comes out of the production, it needs time to reach a certain easiness. The mechanical part, the turntable itself, yeah, it needs a little time, but not that much. So it usually only concerns the cartridge. And then as a general rule, you say between 50 and 100 hours. But the biggest effect is within the, I'd say within the first 30 hours, and then
All right. So the record I put in it is a record I talked a few times because sometimes like we get people ask us these super boring, exciting questions. What is your most valuable record and stuff like that?
you have it. If you show me yours, I show you mine.
Yeah, well, it's the one I put in this shit cover now.
The Parmigiani.
Yeah.
Ah, this is unbelievable. But are you able to name me the real value of it? Is it even possible with such a rare record?
It's a fair question because um, I know two other people who have it. The person who discovered it first, so that we know it. No, I know three people. So the person who first discovered it and who I told, keep your mouth shut about it until I find my copy, so there's not more competition,
Mhm.
because the hardcore Parmigiani fans that were off, they already had all his records. He doesn't have that many, and so I told the story before, but so this guy who's in Paris, who's collecting French records, all kinds of obscure French records. He works. He has a job in. He's basically a marketing guy for luxury brands, and he gets a lot of money for that. And but he was a bit odd, an odd guy in a nice way, not in
Who
a
loves
lovable way.
Parmigiani has to be a little,
No, no,
little.
he had no idea about that. He wasn't really into hip hop,
Okay.
which is fine. But but he was already really interested in what records have been sampled in French hip hop from French culture.
Yeah.
That was kind of his one obsession. He was not just obsessed by that. He was into the music as well. But that was, I guess, the one drive he had. That was one of his pet peeves, as we say,
Yeah.
and so much so that he was quite smart. So he had a good job, and he is. I assume I haven't heard from him in more than 15 years, but because back then there was not that many people in our little scene in Paris who knew about avant-garde stuff and all that. So I was his go-to guy when he needed info about this kind of music. And so he took a job in a interesting record store in the center of Paris that we didn't go to that much because we knew that the guy who ran it, he had good records, but he was a bit difficult. But this guy who this younger guy, he decided to take a part-time job there. He was working there on weekends with the sole purpose, he admitted to me, so he could have access to the stock, because he knew he had found a way to get a glimpse of it, and he realized, shit, there's a lot of stuff that must be there that like no one knows about, and working for this guy gave him access to dig into that. And one day he calls me and he tells me, I have a record that I need you to. You probably can tell me a little bit about it. And he shows it to me. I see the name. I don't know that record from this guy. Uh, we listen to it, and instantly I know what it is, because Bernard Parmigiani, musique concrète composer, hero, like probably my real biggest. If he had had a discography like Nurse with Wound or Ottaker, he would be number one for me.
Okay.
But um, so he did one record with jazz soloists, a recording session, and these tracks were never really released on back then. They were released in one was released on a compilation, but we knew it was a session. And I had interviewed him. I had met him back then, not interviewed
Yeah.
him, but we had discussed and talked about that because I was already interested in that. And the jazz soloists on it, they were very good, very like you. If you know them, which I did, you recognize them by the playing, and that's what I heard. Oh, this is outtakes from this, and it's the soundtrack to a movie, a vanity movie, you could say. It's an art movie, an art house movie that was only shown, to the best of my knowledge, one time at a screening at the Cannes Festival in 1969.
Wow.
And what happened is that the producer of the movie had an after party.
Mm.
And for the purpose of the after party, he had 50 copies of this pressed just to give away to the guests of the party.
Okay. Wow.
So you can imagine after that how many people have kept it, how many have
Exactly.
kept it in good
That was
shape,
how many people
how
did well.
many will
Yeah,
resurface,
yeah, 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 yeah.
because there are some copies of this that have probably never been touched and moved now in over 50 years because people didn't care about it. It was, what, like the stuff that you're being given for free, objects. Huh? Love is free, but an object that you're being given for free has no value in a way,
Yeah.
especially if it has no cultural value to you. So basically, I told the guy when he showed it to me, dude, like you have something really unique from my perspective, and I'm gonna make you an offer that is disgusting. It's disgusting to me. I've never have that much money myself at the same time. And
Mm.
if you can say no, if you can afford to keep it, because this is even if you don't understand the music yet,
Mm.
because he liked the whole aspect of collecting
Yeah.
and the culture around it. Hello, Marcella.
Yeah.
And so I told him, I'm going to give you an advice that goes against my own interest, which is don't sell it to me. But if you don't sell it to me, you have to promise after I give you all this good info,
Mm.
don't put it on Discogs. Don't start telling your friends about it. He didn't have that many friends, but um, and he did. He held his promise, and then I had an edge on all the few hardcore Parmigiani collectors, which back then were probably like 20 people, not more. And so, as I used to do back then, every other day I went to the cybercafé and typed 300 words, keywords on eBay for different things, including this. Then, and it took less than a year, or about a year, before one guy who was actually a local dealer had it for
Local.
auction. Yeah, a guy, I didn't know him personally, but he knew me. I knew him. We saw each other at record fairs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was him first, but like I won it for like 10% of the maximum bid I put, because I didn't want to take no chances. And yeah, I got it for about, yeah, it's ridiculous to talk prices, but I got it for about 200 euros.
Amazing. But yeah, because this is really something. Yeah.
Yeah. And I
This,
got it, I think, for 232 or something like that. It's one of the few records I remember. And I put 2,000 euros as a bid for that, which is crazy.
Yeah,
Totally
but no,
crazy.
but I totally get the point. I
Yeah, but
totally
it
get.
was crazy because I couldn't afford it. I mean, I struggled to pay my rent at the time.
Sometimes, sometimes it has to hurt.
Yeah, and um, and so when I realized the guy is in Paris and that I'm there, we decide to meet. So I give him the money, and
Yeah.
so I tell him a little bit my story, and he said, "Oh, good on you." And I didn't tell him that I was ready to pay 2,000 for that, but
No, you better not. Better not.
and the next day,
Yeah.
the very next day, or maybe 2 days later, I'm not sure now, but I find another copy in Paris
No,
in a thrift store for like €1,
no.
maybe €5. I don't remember. It was like
Oh, you had for sometimes you had two of them.
not for long because even if I paid much less than I was ready to pay, it was still a lot of money back then for me.
Of course.
So back then, I knew someone who I was trading and selling to, an
Mm,
artist I played on my stream 2 weeks ago, actually.
mm.
Um, a really good artist. I think it was, yeah. And he gave me the contact of someone, a certain someone, who told me, "What is your price?" And I thought, like, exactly, what is my price? Because there's the scarcity, the information, the story, the search, and all that. And then there is also who is it who wants to buy.
Mhm.
So my biggest research was not about how much should it be worth, but who is this guy?
Who is this guy? Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And this guy turned out to be the president of the International Automobile Federation.
Okay, it was expensive then.
Yeah, it's basically uh, it's it's the people we don't even
So the guy should have better sent a middleman, right? A student or something. You would have gotten it way cheaper.
well, he paid for a plane ticket for me to go to take the record to him. And he lived in Switzerland. It was not a cheap ticket.
Mhm.
He had someone to pick me up. I brought the record. He gave me
The money.
the money, a lot. Yeah, let's put it that way. You would hesitate to pay that much money for a record, Michael.
Of course I would. I always
And
hesitate beginning. Uh, but you know, I don't know why this question comes to mind, but it came to mind, and I really wanted to ask it. At that time, when you got your copy,
mm,
how many records did you have at that time, roughly? Do you remember?
yeah, I probably had I had under 8,000, and I had more than 4,000. Oh, wait,
Still,
wait, 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 wait.
I wait.
I was around 4,000, I would say.
Hmm.
Maybe a little less. Maybe
How many
300,
of
300.
those 4,000s do you still have?
Sorry?
How many estimated?
Mm.
How many of those 4,000 do you still have?
Oh, 99%.
Okay.
99.8.
Okay.
There was
I,
only a.
for my record, I want to take on Mario's take. Can you share a record that was not extremely, but it was expensive and desirable, and then lost value to whatever? Give me a second.
Oh.
I'll be back.
Uh, when you can share a record that was extremely expensive. What do you mean, Marius?
Yeah, the
Ah,
record lost a lot of value.
oh, that you mean that the record has in the marketplace.
No, no, I bought an extremely expensive record,
Yeah, yeah.
and for whatever reason, it lost a lot of money.
Yeah, you mean that you paid the going rate, and then a year later, if you would have bought that record a year
No, in
later,
my
it cost.
case, Santi, in my case, 2 hours later.
Yeah,
I bought an unplayed original copy of this.
yeah,
Really expensive. Unplayed. This is usually in a good condition, it's roughly 200, 250.
yeah. That's what I would have guessed. Yeah,
Yeah. But for an unplayed, because I love this record, and how often do you see an unplayed Mezzanine first European pressing?
mezzanine,
Mezzanine.
mezzanine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you're the Frenchman. Okay.
Hello, Rast.
And
It's
uh, um, I paid far over 500 for it because it was worth it to me. And then I put it on my turntable. And then this 3-4 kilo weight
Ah.
fell out of my hand on the record.
Oh, so it mechanically lost value.
He said for whatever reason.
Yeah.
That really felt so terrible. I said, no, please, this cannot be true. This could
Oh, you're
not
like
just.
in a state of shock.
I said, are
Yeah.
you kidding me here?
Yeah, well, that happens. Like if you have that statistically that many records, that has happened to me a couple of times. I think. Like the worst thing.
Thanks for your honesty. Thanks
Yeah.
for your honesty.
I have a story like that. A Hans Rodelius record. Let me see if I have it here. Okay, here it is.
Marcella still has 2 sealed copies. Marcella. Of the first pressing Marcella. Wow, that's cool.
So this, I remember, it was 2002 because I had just moved in my flat, and that was the first record I got in. And there was a big ugly sticker on it, as you can see. There's some,
Yeah.
and I was so annoyed by it. And you know how you get rid of them? You use a lighter.
Mm-hmm.
And I forgot to take the record out. I mean, that will only happen to you one time. That's a rookie mistake.
Let's hope.
Yeah. And it happened. I've replaced it since then with a very nice copy. Basically, I bought a copy of this with a shitty cover, much shittier than this, because this one is fine apart from that. But I could make it better, but I keep it that way as a reminder.
Sometimes the personal value of those things is quite there.
Yeah. But like having something fallen in it, no, I haven't had that. Like I dropped the record maybe once or twice and was lucky enough that nothing really bad happened.
He scratched his tool. Yeah, just an unbelievable record. Look, Daniel scratched his tool.
Oh yeah. Well, you know, I hadn't thought about it that much before, but like just the fact that I keep it that way, and I love Hans Rodelius from Cluster. Yeah. I have all his records now. I remember I had a lot of his records, and last year I went into a rabbit hole of completing all the ones that I was missing. That I thought like I need these. After
about how many records are we talking?
They're not all here, but let me see. Yeah, there's about 12 solo records I have of his. Okay. Basically, I have all the ones on Sky Records, and a bunch of others. But
that's the first 2 clusters.
Yeah, and but I don't have. I have the first 2 with the K, and then I have Sowieso, Zuckerzeit, Curiosum, and another one. But I don't like too much.
I could now correct you too, like you did with me on Mesanzin. It's Zuckerzeit. Sowieso. I get a record for Winston. Just get, because Winston asked me for the elephant. You're talking about this one, right? Vault edition from Third Man Records.
Oh, it has two big scratches on the cover. These white stripes there.
No, it has not.
Look on the cover of the box. There's
No.
two. There's yeah, I see them. There's two white stripes there.
Ah, Stanti.
It's a meta joke.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
but you started it with something about organizing a collection.
yeah, no, just like right now it's all chaos because every stream I do, I pull out records
Oh,
and
I,
I have to.
finally I can see this. Wow, show it, please. Make yourself big. I just always wondered how does it
Yeah,
look after a stream?
yeah,
Wow, wow. You're sitting there like an astronaut who fly
yeah,
to the
yeah,
moon in the early in the 60s. It was so narrow.
yeah. I'm like, but the funny thing is that like a month, like 4 weeks ago, all of this was organized and there was room. All the supposedly available room or the intended was there, and 4 weeks, it's already like that. So here's a proof I'm actually listening to my records.
Yeah, I can show you. It's
Oh,
not that different. You always hear records.
I'll tell. That's a yeah, yeah. Well, I know your space, so I know, or I suspect the maximum amount of disorganization you can have there. It's not that much, especially since you have all the new shelves as well. Oh, you're muted, Michael. You muted yourself for some reason.
The new shelf I just showed, that was a saver. Because without this shelf, I was not able to keep it in any order. I get new records and say, where shall I put it? Where
It
shall
was
I?
a lifesaver, and it was your life saving since it cost you 60,000 euros.
Yeah,
Yeah,
at least, yeah.
but
But I show you another lifesaver.
hmm? Hello, Sons of Towns.
And I was so desperate because, I got into this original collecting. First take was only country of origin. But then I realized, hey, that's not feasible and doesn't make sense. But then I had this problem. One, two.
Mm-hmm.
One is the light blue triangle, British first pressing, and the German. And now I have these stupid, nerdy little stickers.
Mm-hmm.
And now I just can put them here and say, okay, German, English. And I can organize them so much better without, sometimes I have 4 different pressings from 4 different countries. And then you have the first or second or whatever pressing. And this makes it so way more easy to organize this stuff. I always have, show you, I have these things with flags. I just put it when I get a new record, I put them on. If it's the first, second, or whatever country. And that really was something that made it way easier now for me to keep the stuff organized. And funny side story is I never would have expected that I needed Swedish or Danish flags, but you really need them here in Europe because in Sweden and Danish, when it comes, for example, to jazz releases, there is amazing stuff out there. Amazing. Or the Sunra first pressing I have, it's a Swedish first pressing, and this is the first pressing. So you need a lot of different flags.
So I just saw that my video from yesterday is
Yeah,
now blocked, and I'm looking at which track created that, and unsurprisingly, it's the one that was using the Beatles.
of course.
So what I will do is I will edit out this
I told
segment.
you yesterday in your stream, don't be too confident. Because, oh, see who says you cannot play the Beatles. Remember what you said? Remember
No,
who I
but
wrote?
I played it and the stream was not taken down. It's like 20, like half a day later.
Yeah, but still.
Yeah. I agree. But yeah, that's the only one. There's a bunch of other that makes that. Of course, I can't monetize, but it's that I know.
You never
Stream.
can monetize a stream you do, right? You never can.
No. I mean, sometimes you can, but I don't count on it. It would be stupid to. Yeah. Running out of space for records like that. That is good problems, though.
It is,
In
exactly.
a way. I
Exactly.
mean, it's annoying, of course, but like every problem is annoying. I'd rather have that kind of problems in my life than yeah.
Yeah. But maybe sometimes if you come to this situation, it's time for a little purge.
It depends how you're looking at it. Like, okay, if you're
It's a
purging
question. No,
because
it's a question, not a statement.
yeah. Um, well, I mean, if you have a family and you run out of space and you can't change your space, then of course you have to. That makes sense.
Or stop buying new records. But who could do that? I couldn't. I'd rather sell older ones so that I can buy new ones.
I have not bought any records since yesterday.
What? Really?
Yeah.
I bought a record yesterday, but I bought no record within a week.
Oh.
But yesterday I got my near mint Boltzmann balls. Finally.
Yeah. Well, I have a couple
And now
of.
I have my balls and I have my nipples.
All right. I just have my balls.
You don't have your nipples?
Surprisingly, I don't have my nipples. I know
Why?
people would expect that.
For
Uh,
obvious reasons. So.
yeah, for but no, we're talking about two Peter Brotzmann records, and one is called Nipples and one is called Balls. I like Balls. Nipples, I'm not. It's a good record, but it's not better than other. It doesn't do anything different from other records of Brotzmann I have that I love.
Yeah, but now I feel complete, you know?
Yeah,
Balls
but
and
you are a completist, and
yeah,
you're
yeah,
fine with that.
I'm a completist. That's true, and I love it, and no denying here. But maybe with a little but. Maybe when I have it complete, then I may come to a point where I say, okay, I need my balls, but my nipples are not that important to me.
So you know what? That was where I was at 15 years ago. I
Hmm.
was a completist, but I was mostly into artists that either were I started collecting when they started, or they didn't have like a massive. Um, and no, I wasn't actually. I was only a completist with the artists that started with me. That
This
like
was
no. Nurse Wasn't started long before, so I didn't have any pressure. But like if there's an artist that I discover, like for example,
that.
yeah,
Mm,
I remember
mm,
when Prefuse 73 started. I loved it. I loved how different it was, and I had to have every single record, even the ones that had a remix by him, a compilation with. I even bought a record because it had a locked groove made by him.
okay.
And after a while, I realized, yeah, it's interesting, but I don't love all these records. There's only just a few,
Mm.
and that was quite liberating. But now I prefer to, for a long time now I'm in a position where I do that um, beforehand. I do the pre-selection before getting the records. I don't. There's no back then. Like you couldn't access all this stuff online. Now you can. So there's no reason to not do that, in my opinion.
Just a little break and then we go on, of course. Mario Stark make an announcement. There's going
Yeah.
to be stunty nipples in tomorrow's Little Morning parody. Can't
Well,
wait. But keep my balls out of it, Marius.
well, it depends if he's showing you boys. Then it's difficult to avoid your balls. Yeah, Michael's dogs are very manly.
What did you expect? Of course they are.
Yeah, but yeah. So sorting the records. It's true though that there are records that you feel you might want to purge. You know, the records like this record I know is not like the must have of this artist, but I really like that artist. So you're not necessarily ready to let them go. But then
Yeah,
I
but
don't I
I
don't
have.
put them here. They're not in the
It's
studio.
so difficult what you do in my. For me, doesn't you say, okay, I have this artist, take one, and then you have 12 out of his 15 records, and I say, oh, this is important, this is important, this, and the other four I purge. Aren't you afraid that you regret it because your taste shifts a little and says, oh my God, I sold it in a way that this is his best record, and now I don't have it anymore, and I have to pay triple the
Okay,
price?
the only the only records I sold because of the money
Yeah.
that were records I bought for myself, not for the purpose of reselling.
Mm.
I regret every single one of them.
Okay. Mm.
At least, apart from the ones that were a mistake, an obvious mistake from the get go. If I buy a record and the first
Yeah.
listen I know it's not, I don't like it, then it's
Yeah.
different. But if
Yeah.
it was something that meant something to me at one point, I remember there's a, I think it's a band. Let me see. Um, a band called the Voodoo Queens. This I have the 7-inch and the 10-inch of the single, which is supermodel superficial. It's like a Riot Girl indie record from the early 90s. It's on Two Pure Records, one of my favorite labels. So
Mhm.
they only had like one of them. They are from Pakistani or Indian origin. One of them became Anjali, who did some great trip hop in the mid 90s. Really good stuff. Very similar to Ruby, but better. So I have the 7-inch, the 10-inch, and I had the album with the limited edition with a bonus 7-inch. I was never listening to it because it's not as good as these.
Yeah.
I sold it, but I sold it. It was not worth a lot, but it was the money I got from for that helped me get a record I wanted more. I still think about that record because I bought it at a time when I was a teenager, and all that music was important for me, and the stories are more important to me sometimes than the actual music, especially for this kind of stuff. And it's not that I feel bad about it, but it's still in my mind. I had that record, I sold it for virtually nothing, and I yeah, like it's easy to rationalize in a negative way now because back then I did good use of the 20 euros I got for it, or the 15, or I probably got like a Spaceman free record for 20 bucks that is now worth 100. Um,
100? Dream on. They are really expensive. You talk way too much about them. It's really difficult to get some of those.
and well, so yeah, these are I have a few. Then I have a few that people contacted me on Discogs. Would you sell them? And that happens very regularly.
Mm.
And when it's stuff that I know can command a lot of money, I say something I now kind of don't want to do anymore. I say, make me an offer I can't say no to, which is kind of a trick. It's like,
It is for sure.
yeah, because is it? because some people will think, yeah, okay, let's see, a record, the least it went for on Discogs is €100. The medium value
Mm.
is 140, and it once sold for 280. And I tell you, make me an offer I can't say no to, and you tell me 300. If it's a record that is impossible to find, if someone goes to me, because that means that either someone is asking for crazy money or no one has it for sale. So if you, in that equation, if you say 300 to me, I'm going to say a polite thanks, but no thanks. Good luck to you.
Let me briefly address Herr Telev with the smoking question, because I got that now regularly. There is, Stanti knows this, there is a big area behind the shelves where I can completely open everything. So there are 5, 6, 7 meters that are completely open. So it goes out like nothing. Usually I smoke in the garden, but when I do a stream, I smoke here, but always with those doors open. So it's from the air, it's like on the outside here. So I'm aware of it. So not as bad as you might think. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to make that statement, Stati.
It's a delicate balance. Like one of my biggest wants, in a way, nowadays is a record I sold for money that I never thought was possible to sell that record for. It's a record I sold for €1,600. Now, if someone offered it to me for 2,000, and I have a reissue of it, but it's a record that is very dear to me, which is silly to say in a way, but it's
Why do you think it's silly to say?
in a way, like when I hear people say that, oh, it's a record very dear to me. Well, maybe it is, but then it means nothing to me. And maybe it's just something you're telling yourself. If you have a real actual story, like for example, a record that was a big quest, that I know what I went through to get it, the years, the time, the satisfaction, the fact that you enter it on Discogs, you introduce it to people. I played it on the radio, I played it in DJ sets, so I basically championed that record. So it's something, and I love the music. So of course, then I grow a connection to it, which is still silly in a way, but at least I have that story, and I sold it for money. I needed the money, and I bought shitload of good records, cheap records that have gone up in value now that I couldn't afford now if I was getting them now. So there's always a rational way to look at it, but who cares about rationality?
Well,
We're buying.
sometimes it makes sense, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is basically the motto. Carefully, you need to purge.
Yeah, but you have let's compare you and me when it comes to collecting vinyl.
Hmm.
You have two major advantages. You never got out of it. You always stick to it. And you made it, not almost, I think it's safe to say that you made it your profession, right?
When I was a teenager and very interested in music, and also starting like looking at a
Okay.
career in both advertising or politics or both, which I actually
Mm.
did get, I was still making music and buying records and going to record stores. I had this very clear idea in my mind that I don't want music to become my main source of income, because of a very purist idea, idealist that I have since kind of grew out of, in many ways, which is that um, if music is my sole source of income or my main one, the day I really, really, really need to do anything to put food on my table, then I need to take the first job that presents itself, and which means that like there will be nothing pure about my music making in that instance. And then I was a DJ. I was a radio DJ, a club DJ, a
Mm,
journalist, a radio host. Worked with record stores, started a record store, worked for record labels, distributors, did music, sold records, sold my own records, my own music, performed live. And
mm,
long before that, I realized that, oh shit, I'm already there. Music is definitely my main source of income. But then, especially since I started to release music and to perform live, I realized that it's going to sound weird, but I hope, and I'm not saying it's true for everything, but in a way, creating an economy around your art is the art.
okay.
When I meet someone, a young DJ or music producer, whatever, and who tells me I'm a musician, the first question that pops in my mind that I want to ask, in a genuine way, not in a judgmental way, is, have you managed to create an economy around your music? So obviously I think the question, I don't always ask it because I know that it can be taken wrongly. It's because it's just my curiosity. It's just basically a way for me to gauge how serious you've been about it. Because basically to be able to create art in a way that is relevant at one time for other people and maybe at another time. When, for example, I make dub techno. I'm really good at it, but it was easy because I grew up into it.
Mm,
10 years later, that music is out of fashion totally, and I'm still an artist, or I am, because that means I have to be able to reinvent myself in the relevant paradigm of the present. Maybe I want to, I could also be stubborn and decide I'm just going to do exactly what I was doing 10 years ago, but then you're not creating an economy around it
mm,
and you fall into oblivion maybe. But if you are able to reinvent yourself, in my opinion, that means that you have to consciously put yourself in the position of having no B plan, no backup plan. Oh, music doesn't work anymore. My dad, he's got a company. I can go and work there because it's easier to do that, to maintain the, the style, the life quality level that way than to go through the process of reinventing yourself, taking risks and going into the unknown in a way. So there's all these philosophical considerations that are actually very real when you're
mm,
living them. And when you consider that, like, why would I even want to go into that if music means that much to me on a superficial level? And when I say superficial, I don't mean that. I mean in an economical, superficial way. That music, your life doesn't depend on on music. It's just something you love, and that's perfectly fine. It's something around you that you might say that you need music in your world, in your life, but that's just words. Maybe you do. Maybe that's the way you honestly feel about it. But it's quite different when everything is on the line. And I'm not advocating or saying that is a higher understanding of music or anything. Far from that.
mm.
Perish the thought. But these are interesting considerations, I think or hope are, and certainly ones I had throughout my life.
Yeah, because you just named all those steps you went through. All are connected to music, but still, hey, that was quite. I always ask myself because we talk about this stuff also privately,
Mm.
and I always said, "Damn, that's a lot what he has done around this whole topic of music." Because, in my opinion, in your case, it's safe to say that music is your life.
Which I really object to, but reality
Might prove
points.
you wrong.
No, but yeah, exactly. Like I know it's not, but statistically it is. Thankfully, we're not just statistics.
Mm, mm, mm. Agree.
It's I guess it's
Yeah, when I say that, Stunty, when I say that, then I don't mean that you only have music in your
I
head,
know, I know, but
and there's nothing else we can talk. We can talk about mushrooms, we can talk about forests, we can talk about philosophy. We now even can talk about snakes, but but
yeah,
still,
yeah.
it,
No, but I think I can totally understand that most of these considerations, most people won't have them, and many, hopefully, many artists won't have them as well. I've had them. I've shared these ideas and discussions with other artists,
Mm,
and most had either exactly that or their own version of that, and yeah, I'm kind of reluctant to say I'm an artist right now. I'm not producing anything directly that one would consider directly, like, even if I DJ and I do it in an artful way, I think it's, and I'm not talking about when I stream. It's something completely different.
yeah,
Uh, but
yesterday you did a little bit when I was afraid I need 2 more turntables.
oh yeah, yeah. When I played this amazing record, yeah.
Yeah, it's
And
quite something.
how cool is that? Like a
Yeah,
7-inch box set with 5. There's only, yeah. This one, this is another one, another 7-inch box set. Very
mhm.
cool on lovely records. This one is much bigger, but I don't think it has more records, and they're not as good as pressed. Yeah, there's 6 records in that one plus a booklet. But
Yeah, you can play them how and however and wherever you want on several turntables, right? You can have
yeah,
two,
yeah, because all
four,
of
five.
them are like evolving drones,
Mm,
tones, ambient pads,
mm.
but that are harmonically all potentially in tune. So you can play them in any combination possible, and it will create something um, that is correct harmonically, which is not necessarily the biggest concern of that artist in a way, but for that kind of music, it was like there's nothing
But
wrong with
it's
disruption.
stunning that it works, right? You can do whatever you want, and it always sounds harmonic and not terrible. That's quite an achievement, right? Didn't Carsten Nicolai did do something, or was it another
Well,
artist?
La Monte Young is doing that. Like the
Mm,
just intonation piano things is basically he's tuning the piano so that every key you play is in tune with the others in a way,
mm.
uh, but in a very specific way because he uses microtonality. So basically, the whole piano has only like 1 or 2 octaves, which means that he's basically
That was
creating an octave of 64 keys instead of 12.
Isn't this something similar on a different level and on a different level of
No,
craziness?
this is completely different.
Yeah, but the 100 metronomes are also random, or aren't?
Yeah, 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 yeah. But like the tuning, they don't. It's the same metronome. Stockhausen did that as well, and it's there's a
No, it's
famous,
100. I think it's 100 simultaneously
yeah.
keeping
There's
metronome.
someone there's a video on YouTube where you can see that, and the whole challenge is how the creating the mechanism so you can start all of them at the same time, which is kind of funny, and yeah, and then to see them slightly over time go out of
Exactly,
it's not the
exactly.
it's not they're all in tune because they have only one tune. It's like out of synchronization. Like now I'm talking about the harmonic
Yeah, I
because
get it.
the
You're right.
values that goes with
You're
others
right.
like
You're right. You're right. What's your take on this record? It's quite a ride, right? When you go through it. Oh my God.
yeah, it's this was not originally released when he made it, right? This is a modern pressing you have, right?
Yeah, but
Because
it's
the thing
there are
with
not. This is the direct metal mastering, but quite some time ago.
Oh, so
And
no, it's from the late 80s, right?
Stunty, don't ask me this kind of questions. I know it's a German first, thanks to my stickers. 1987.
Yeah. Is it on Gramma Vision?
I'm looking. It's edition Michael Frauenlob.
Ah, okay, interesting. Well, yeah, but no, that's the original pressing. It's just that I was thinking that I think the first performance of that was in the 60s or 70s, and that was meant as a visual thing as well.
Okay.
So this is more like a document. I don't know how much you. Of course, no, you're correct. Sonically, it's still quite amazing. Like, but it is an experiment. This is experimental music. This is not regular Gheorghe Ligeti music.
Yeah, that's true.
It's
Winston, maybe I know. Winston wants to know, Stunty Michael, what was your first ever record you purchased? You remember? I think I do, but I'm not 100%.
yeah. I think I do too. And over time, the
Yeah,
answer is a
exactly.
bit different
Exactly.
sometimes.
Yeah.
But it depends what you talk about. It depends if you're talking about the first record or the first music medium, because the first record
Because
I
my
bought was
first
not a
record
record.
would 100% be a Winnie 2 record or an old Shatterhand
For me,
record.
it would be a cassette, the first one.
No, at that time they were on records, by the way, though. Winnie
Okay.
2. Yeah. I'm a little older.
And then the first record you bought for yourself outside of peer pressure or family, which is also very different to me.
Exactly.
But I tend to say that the first record I bought is Hawkwind.
Hawkwind.
Yeah.
Okay. I think my very first record, I know if that counts now, because I asked my grandmother to get it for me because I don't have the money. It was, you will love it, Stunty. It was Deep Purple, made in Japan. And you know what I did? I only listened for at least 1 week for the first minute, the guitar solo on Smoke on the Water. That was the
Yeah.
only.
Well,
And
I remember I
I
bought a compilation, a double LP. You know that there was advertised on TV
Mhm.
in the 80s. That was
Yeah.
the first record I bought actually, but
Maybe
it was
Cater.
just yeah. It was a compilation of like 70s rock,
Mhm.
and there was Smoke on the Water on it. And of course, when you're like, I was 9, and of course, like yeah. And it was funny on that compilation because I tracked it down a few years ago just to verify, and there
Mhm.
was T-Rex, Boney M,
Okay.
uh, uh, Leonard Cohen, Cheap Trick.
Quite a
Uh,
combination.
it was all right, but just
Okay.
classic rock and all that. But yeah, this is the first record I think. I think it is. It must be the first one I actually purchased with my own money when I was
And
like
it's still this copy?
no, not that one. It was a CD when I bought it in 1990.
Cool.
Yeah, maybe 1999, 1989. I'm not sure, but yeah. And then Winston also asked this question, these stupid questions, huh?
Damn, don't say that. But he likes to know.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. I
Also
remember
like this on tape.
some of the earliest stuff I bought on tape also was Eurythmics and Face No More.
When Dom bought his first record, I was already out of vinyl for the first time.
Yeah, well, Dom and I are the same age, I think. I think he might be
Sag ruhig.
like either a year younger than me or a few months younger than me. So he has to do what I say. Oh yeah,
Okay,
that
I have another 5 to 10 minutes, and then I
yeah.
have to.
If, by the way, yeah, if anyone,
YouTube.
as I was saying,
Kiss Alive 2. Oh, that was also a very early one. I remember that. Kiss Alive 2. And I remember at that time, Kiss was supposed to give a concert in Berlin. And with my best friend Torben, he lived in Berlin. We were both very young boys at that time. I said, I come to Berlin when Kiss makes this concert. I come. And I drove to Berlin. No, I flew at that time. I still was flying. And then the concert got canceled in Berlin. You know why, Stanti? When I tell you, it's totally clear. This
oh,
SS symbol of the
okay,
Kiss.
yeah.
So the concert got canceled. But it was still cool in Berlin.
Yesterday, or like earlier today, when I was sorting records a little bit, I found something in a record. I wish I had it yesterday when we did that stream. I'll show you it. Let me make myself big. Mm,
What is
this
this?
is the pamphlet and the list of all the different disc union shops in Japan with
Ah,
the map of all the areas in Tokyo for them with the respective by genre, because they're all by genre in the disc union shops.
that's cool.
Yeah, and it was in a record I bought back there that I had forgotten I had that, because I had these but with tons of personal annotation and marking, and that was really helpful. Surprisingly, even if you don't know Japanese and Japanese people don't speak English, it's quite easy to find
They
your way.
don't. Okay. I wasn't aware of that because we have a big Japanese community here in Düsseldorf.
Yeah,
Really,
no,
since
they read and they write
they
English.
speak, they speak English very, very good. The
Well, in
Korean,
Japan they don't. They read it and write it really good, but they have like it's difficult, the pronunciation and all that. So you can't rely on people to help you find your way unless you're actually writing things down. But but it's quite easy to find your way in Tokyo. Nah.
yeah, but come on, you are French. I remember one thing. It was so
Mhm.
fun. Um, I was in Italy. I was around 15, 16, and there were this has been this nice French girl. It was holidays. And I said, "Oh, shall we go to the cinema tonight? I want to see the new James Bond movie." And she said, "Oh." She didn't understand. I said, "James Bond."
Mhm.
I said, "James." And then I wrote it, and she said, "Oh, James Bond. James
Oh yeah, yeah,
Bond."
exactly. Well, yeah.
That's so difficult with French people. James Bond. I said, "No, James Bond. Sorry."
Oh, I don't know anyone in France who says James Bond. No, no. In Italy maybe, but
Okay, Stanti, in that sense,
yeah.
I have thought. Well, thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Really
I'm
enjoyed
gonna.
it.
I just wanted to, yeah, to sort some records, and I thought I'd open the stream a little bit. Oh,
But this didn't work out very well.
oh,
But maybe from now on. Thank you, Stanti.
bye bye.
Bye bye.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna keep doing that for just a little while. Oh, this is funny. I bought 5 copies of this in the past 6 months. They all have some off gassing. All 5 different copies of this, all unplayable from different sellers. So I assume this was packaged in a PVC sleeve, the bad ones. So if anyone can help me out with this, this is um, the one wire record I'm still missing, and you have to close your YouTube tab, Liam.
Yeah, is that all right?
Yeah, it's all right now. Hello, my
Yeah.
friend.
Okay.
Have you ever seen this one?
Well, that's cool, isn't it? Yeah. Is that it's 45? Yeah.
Yeah. Salut, Dom.
Hey, thought I'd pop on for a sec.
Yeah, it's all good.
Hey, Leo.
Everything's from distracting me from my
Yeah,
task.
Why do you have 5 copies of Outdoor Miner? You just keep buying them for some reason?
Because I hope to find a good copy of it.
Isn't that from Chairs Missing originally, or was it the single around that time?
It's the single. It's one of the singles from Chairs Missing. Yeah.
Okay, so that's in your middle period of where you're kind of
Yeah,
getting
I
into
don't
why.
want.
Yeah.
I don't want to have Chairs Missing because Outdoor Miner is the only track I really love on it. I think
Right.
it's basically for me when Wire starts to be interesting. I know it's very controversial, but most people think that the two first Wire albums are the beginning of punk rock, or of punk, not punk rock, punk. And it's true to a certain degree, but for me, I love punk, but
This
yeah.
one.
But,
So there's a lot of greatness on this record. Just saying.
but do you see where I'm coming from with saying that Outdoor Miner is quite different than the rest of the
Yes.
album?
It's transitionary into 154 for sure.
And 154 for me is I get goosebumps just naming it. It's one
great.
of these. Yeah. It's.
So
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. What do you? I was just going to ask. What do you think of the French pressings of the 80s?
Well, it's funny
Because
you asked that.
I picked up this naming
Yeah.
copy, and it's a French pressing.
Yeah.
And it's got. Do you know any about Vogue?
Vogue, yeah, Vogue doesn't exist anymore, but Vogue was a very good label in the 60s, 70s, 80s, yeah.
Yeah.
It was helmed by a millionaire, a just seller millionaire.
Was it?
Yeah. It's a kind of funny story. People have forgotten about it, but this guy was like a public media figure in France in the 80s. Then he became old and he wanted to keep the lifestyle and he became ridiculous. And people forgot about him and he died and no one remembers that now.
But in general, the good pressings, I mean, this sounds absolutely amazing.
Well, I'll tell you what, before I say that, like 154 from Wire is amazing. The Ideal Copy is the masterwork. If you have to have only one Wire album, in my opinion, is Ideal Copy. Is the one where they become unique. They invent a whole own way of doing pop music and hits even, and the live versions from the singles from Ideal Copy, Snake Drill and all that, so good. But what is interesting to take in consideration about these 80s French pressings from a British perspective is that a shitload of the UK pressings from the 80s and 70s were actually pressed in France.
Were they?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Because England didn't have the capacity. Remember, for different reasons. First, there was the oil crisis. And at one point, Britain was quite isolated. But it was not just that. It was also like the biggest pressing plant in the world back then, or at least in Europe, was MPO in France. And if you look at all these Bowie records, like you see like the address of the label, England, and all that, and sometimes it's the English first pressing, but you'll see made in France.
Yeah,
you see that in the 90s too. A lot of the indie labels made in France, Discord.
Because I think even the Beatles sent out a lot of their stuff in the early 70s getting pressed in France.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. When I think they were having work done to the Hayes plant, the EMI Hayes plant, and it shut down for a while, so they pressed them all in France. But obviously, I think they still used the UK plates, but pressed them there. So
Eddie Barclay is the guy I was talking about. Eddie Barclay had his own label, Barclay Discs, but he also ran Vogue for
Did
a
he?
while. Yeah.
So this is on Mute Records. The Mute label, Mute
Yeah.
Record label. Yeah.
Yeah, because Yazoo is a side project from Depeche Mode.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Essentially, who were the biggest band on Mute.
Yeah, that's
Probably
right.
still are.
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
Mute had Depeche Mode, Fiction had The Cure. Well, basically, Fiction is of The Cure. Like they never had any other artist that was like big, had they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, who can name another band on Fiction other than The
I
Cure?
can. God Machine. I have like recently. I was very disappointed in Dom because he jumped on a thread that I think should be like forgotten, like one of the worst, lowest times in music history, and I say lowest, pun intended. I know you know what I mean now, Dom.
Yeah. I'm surprised
Fucking
to hear you say this. I'm surprised to hear you be so like. There's so much stuff you've shown that has elements of all that stuff.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just sort of done in its own sort of intensive way.
yeah.
None
But
of
then I
that
had
stuff makes. None of that stuff tracks with you.
Low is one of the most boring bands ever for me, and it's
That's the
funny how
point. It's boring.
yeah, but it's funny how the line can be thin, indeed, as you said, because like all the bands that Big Star 1000 and you showed. I didn't watch your video because I still want to respect you, and but all the bands that he
You don't have
showed,
to
I know
respect me.
them.
That's fine.
No, but you know I'm joking.
Yeah.
But it's true that all of them, I was so close to them culturally, and all of them, no, not for me. There was
Full
always something.
Carnation.
No, Red House Painters. No,
No,
Rachel.
I'm not a big Red House Painters
Yeah,
guy, but
but for me, it had to be like, for example, one band that, for example, Codeine. I don't like Codeine, but I like him, and I love Shipping News, but I don't like Juno 44.
what is that? What's that about? What is it? What's the difference there for you?
The grit, I think. Slowcore
Well,
doesn't have the grit.
there's grit. I think there's some grit. It's just maybe done. It's sometimes it has a glossened over sound and a very gentle sound, but I think of it as coming from more of a post-hardcore sort of post-punk kind of atmosphere than like
Yeah,
Galaxy 500 being the
but when you say
dreamy thing.
post-punk, you mean post-punk rock, which is maybe my issue with that, because it's an American thing as well. Like
It is, yes.
like that's, I know some people find me ridiculous, but when you say punk, what Americans think is punk when they talk about American bands like DOA, The Germs, X, Black Flag, for me, it's not punk. It's punk rock, fine, but it's not punk. It has nothing to do with Wire, the Buzzcocks, or any, like, nothing.
It's just a
Because
different stream the way I think of it. It's just being translated into its own sort of ethos and its own sort of style. Like in many ways, Minutemen to me was a definitive punk band just because of their ethos and where they were coming from, and there was no pretension around it and no
yeah, but
style.
the thing for me, for example, a band like Black Flag is anti-musical. It's like it kind of denies the idea of melodies. Like the melodies are like the energy is it's fine. Like there's lots of interesting aspects about it, but the melodies almost never. Whereas British punk is still post Beatles in a way. It's still
Right.
looking for catchy melodies. American punk rock is not looking for catchy melodies.
Mm.
Maybe sometimes it is, but then it's
It
like
was
all the bands I named.
I agree
Like
with that.
yeah. It's as if in the UK the punk was an answer to the dinosaur prog rock, wasn't it? In the UK, that's what it meant. So you were a popular progressive rock band, 1977, and punk came out, well, 77, 78, and all of a sudden, all those bands like Genesis, Pink Floyd, they were all dinosaurs overnight, and yet they were still like musicians in the late 20s and 30s getting called dinosaurs. So it's a strange. And then the punk they were only probably about 10 years younger than these bands, but had brought this energy, shortened songs, and it took it back to basics. But I'd always say a band like Sex Pistols, the heart, you take away their attitude, they were like a rock and roll band, just a simple rock and roll band, I've always thought. But the look was more part of the punk, their look.
That's where I disagree. Like that is what TV and that is what the people, what punk was supposed to be about or against. That exactly the weapon that was used against it was like, look, like punk is not like when you listen to the Buzzcock Wire, it's not about the look. It's about no one allowed me to do that.
We're going to need like a couple of coins to change that.
Hell if I'm not going to do it anyways. For me, that is punk. And in that regard, that is why I accept the premise of punk rock. There is still something punk about it, in the sense that because if you look at most of these bands from the 60s, most of them were not self-trained. They actually took guitar lessons. They went to the conservatory. Like the guys from Led Zeppelin, they knew how to play the instruments before they started to write songs. The Buzzcocks probably learned on the spot.
Yeah.
I mean, there's exceptions, of course. And I'm not saying what I'm saying works for everything. But yeah. What are your thoughts about that? The whole like self-taught aspect of punk, Doug?
I think that's what was about in the beginning. I mean, feeling like, oh my God, I don't need to know how to play. Like, we're just going to do this, and who cares? We don't really care about an audience. Even this is just for us to get out of our system.
Yeah,
and that was what it was about early on. And that's the UK. I always feel is like they were going for. I mean, the style and the sort of look of punk kind of came from there, other than the Ramones look. But yeah, I always looked at it was more about your lack of technique and
not necessarily your lack of technique, but for me, your lack of education. Like, because again, like the guys from Led Zeppelin, the guys from Cream, all that, they learned how to play the instruments before they formed the band.
Yeah.
Which is fine, but it means something very different politically and philosophically.
Yeah. And there'd been session players like Jimmy Page and John Paul Jones. They were making records before they even formed their own band. So they were schooled and trained as musicians before they finally formed their own. So
there are some library soundtrack records featuring Jimmy Page from the maybe late 50s even.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe it's early 60s, but there's a Basil Kershin record featuring Jimmy Page.
Yeah,
not familiar.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I saw Low twice live, and it was excruciating for me. It was like I was like,
I never went to see him because of that. I'm like, this feels like something I need to sit in my living room and just sort of listen to and immerse myself in. I don't need to see this live, so I never went. I saw a lot of the other bands I showed live, but Low, I was like, I get it, I love it, but I don't need to see it live.
I'll tell you one of the weirdest, or not that weird, but still fun, double bill. It was a morning show for a radio station, a radio in a venue, where the opening band was a band I played yesterday, Pierre Bastien, who I'm sure Dom is familiar with, and then Low on the same stage for the same thing.
Well, how was it?
Well, Pierre Bastien was absolutely fantastic, amazing, with all his instruments, homemade instruments on stage, and Low was, well, the fan club was there and loved every second of it, and I was in pain every second of it because I had to wait till the end since one of my friends was there, and I'm a polite guy, not polite enough to not say what I think, but.
You didn't walk out. What you're saying is you didn't walk out.
That said,
And
with
also,
Low, like they have a cutoff point for me where I'm like, I feel like they tried to get too ambitious and into sort of like basic rock, indie rock, and I don't really care. I really like the sort of the mood that they're creating more than anything, or on the earlier LPs, you know.
hmm. Yeah, and in a way, if you're not into the whole singer-songwriter aspect of it, which is present in Low, but obviously not the main thing, it's not like Low, unless when they did collaborations with other artists, then it's a different thing. But other than that, it's kind of a one-trick pony, isn't it?
That's kind of where I have the few records I have, and I'm sort of good with that. I probably could cut it down to one, but it's
Which would be
enough. It's a
and would that be the first one?
Long Division's my favorite one on
I'm
Burning
not
Yard.
familiar enough. I have managed to raise some memories of that. So
Yeah, I'll find it. Well, this is a great. Speaking of a collaboration, Low and Dirty 3, the Fish Tank series.
Dom, here's a challenge for you. Explain to Vinyl Richie how Low sounds.
Uh, sparse, slow, sparse and slow and beautiful. I think sparse is the big thing. You know, you there'll be points where you're just like, is this song still even happening? And then you'll hear like another downbeat. You know, angelic vocals. I would say there's an emotional intensity to it, and it's stripped down, and it. You know, I could see not liking it. I don't know if it's a Vinyl Richie band.
Don't you think there's also like a definitive folk element? For me, that's the first thing I would say, that
Yeah.
Low is
Where
like
Codeine was more of a
ketamine.
rock band, Low was definitely taking more of a folk stance, I'd say.
Yeah, it's a ketamine folk band in a way. It's, imagine if you really took the
This is my
dose.
favorite one.
Yeah, but it's really there's something interesting about it for sure. I hate it, but I wouldn't say it's completely useless and irrelevant. It's just not for me. But
So what year are we talking about here with Low? The best
Early
92.
mid-90s. Early to
Yeah.
mid-90s, yeah.
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 Meanwhile, the band Acetone, who I talk about, and I know you've shown some love towards, they were sort of bringing in sort of a, I wouldn't say a country, but yeah, I mean, they sort of play around with the sound a little more, and I think maybe it's aged the best in a way. And I know Jason Spaceman, like they toured with
Yeah, it's more like
Spiritualize, and
it's what we used to call like noisy pop back then, like a indie. It was not directly shoegaze. They're American, right? Acetone.
yeah, California, yeah.
Yeah, they were good. I saw them live. That was one of probably the first 10 shows I saw. I saw them with 18th Die, if you remember them.
Yeah, vaguely.
18th Die was the German band that was doing this kind of music, and they were quite good and successful at it. I guess they're kind of forgotten now. It's like I brought up the whole slowcore thing for fun and for the discussion, but Dom, if you're still here. No, he's not, because I wanted to show a record to him that is quite interesting.
Stunty, have you heard of Bernie Marsden?
I'm here. I'm just getting my adapter.
Yeah.
Well, Thor saying R.I.P. Bernie Marsden.
If I have, what is the question again? Sorry.
Yeah, have you heard of him? He was a guitarist, a UK guitarist. You know, for Whitesnake.
Yeah. I know who it is.
Yeah. A great guitarist. He died yesterday. I did have the pleasure of meeting Bernie about 10 years ago. Lovely guy, you know, and as I say, amazing guitarist. So that was quite. Me and Simon got to meet him, and he just spent 20 minutes with us, just chatting away. He didn't, you know.
Huh. Yeah, honestly, for me, Whitesnake, I have very low incentive
but
to
I think when they started
investigate.
I think when they started off, they were, you know, a really great rock band, definitely.
All right.
Yeah.
What did you say? Like a blues rock band?
Yeah, a little bit. So they were like an offshoot from, you know, Deep Purple.
Oh yeah, that's right. Now I
So
remember
yeah,
that.
Deep Purple finished with Coverdale singing. So Coverdale carried on into Whitesnake with John Lord and
Dmitry, you definitely need to make your own mind about that. Like, I'm absolutely open about me having really low passions with it, but I'm also like, make your own mind. And they're an interesting and important band. They influence a lot of people. I think it's for me, it's the definition of an overrated band on their level, but that's just me.
Mhm.
can you
And
get their albums, original albums? Are they expensive, or have they got
Yeah.
reissues?
just a second,
Yeah.
because I
What would you
wanted to.
recommend, Dom? Have they got like good reissues on them?
Well, the stuff on Cranky they've just been repressing, which might be the most heralded records, Trust and Things We Lost in the Fire. I think you can get those right now. They go in and out of print, but Cranky the label is pretty good about repressing stuff. The ones I showed are the ones that are earlier that are tied up in sort of contractual that they can't get reissues
Yeah.
for. And those are, I think, issued in the UK and the US, maybe just the US. But
Yeah.
I would look at those Cranky ones, like from '99 to 2002.
Yeah.
They bring in a little more actually diversity and variants, and people love those probably even more than the ones I showed. But for me, I like the earliest stuff.
Yeah.
What were the big collaborations they did again? Because they did with the Rachels, I think, right?
Well, Dirty Three they did. I mean, they appear on different records. I have to check. Nothing else is coming to mind other than Dirty Three. Maybe someone in the comments knows, but
Didn't they do like a one with a big name like Bruce, like Neil Young or something like that?
I'm not as far as I can recall. At least like a double billing. It's possible. It's possible because they were. I mean, at the time, they were like one of the big indie bands for sure.
That is a very good comparison, RTLF, and also a good explanation why I don't like Sigur Rós.
I had a time where I was into them, and it faded for me quickly. I'm not sure why.
Well, it's, I guess, I've said it so many times. Dom is probably getting sick of it. That for me, ambient needs to have tension. Otherwise, it's new age, and
Yeah, that's a
I
good point.
guess that's what I need tension in most music. I'm interested to get interested, and Sigur Rós is about escaping tension. Low, maybe not always, but I would need to re-listen to it to be a definitive statement. But impulsively, I would say that low is low on tension.
There is tension, absolutely. It's not like grit. It's not like sort of a codeine has a little more sort of heaviness to it. This is tension just in sort of like harmonic tension, I'd say, and sort of what they're doing, less so than like loud or distorted noises.
By the way, you who obviously love codeine and who love dub and reggae, I haven't heard you talk about him.
See, I
Him is the band of Doug Sharin, the leader drummer of Codeine, a well
Mhm.
beloved post-hardcore, slowcore band from the early '90s, and who went on to do different kinds of things, including this band called Him, not the metal, not the one that Thor would be familiar with.
see, yeah, the metal one. Back in a previous job, I was doing marketing for that band, so maybe that's why I'm a little bit distorted on him. But I do know the other him. It's probably just one. I remember it at the time. I think I just never really got into it or never really investigated it. So that's a little bit of a blind spot there. But I'm familiar with it.
But so what do you? But you've listened to some Him records.
Yeah, at some point I checked them out. You'll have to show me and guide me in the right one.
The
But
best one, I'll show it to you. Maybe I'll find it there, but it's an EP. It's my top favorite dub records, all like Jamaican included. But I wanted, like, when I showed that, you already knew what it was, right?
no, I don't know what that is.
Come on, now, okay,
I see sides one through four. No, yeah, I don't know what this is.
you don't know that?
No,
You know that label,
I know Skin Graft, of course.
yeah,
Okay, yeah, I don't have that. That's a great. I mean, look at the bands. I don't have
yeah.
that one.
and it's a double 7-inch
Double 7.
with, as they used to do back then sometimes, with a comic book about the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And
Skin Graft had some great stuff. I like the US made
Draft
one.
is kind of, I wanted to talk about them because they are kind of the band that was right between noise rock and this kind of
Avant-garde.
more slowcore post-hardcore stuff. And I remember buying, I mean, Big Black. I love Big Black. I really hate Black Flag, but Big Black, I love it. I was quite excited when Shellac started, and I was in line to buy the first two 7 inches of Shellac. I still have them there. I think it's the most boring rock ever.
No, I like the Shellac stuff better than Big Black. Big Black to me is good, but I don't go back to it very often. Shellac is more interesting and diverse to me, and at times polarizing. Yeah, Big Black, I mean, for what it is, and I have a couple of Big Black records for sure. Atomizer is wonderful, but yeah, Shellac to me is just got it just gets my goat a little more. But I wanted to show a dub record real quick.
Are you at home now, Liam?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm at home. I was out all day yesterday at the Beatles
You
festival.
could see that, yeah.
Yeah, a lot going on there.
Yeah, you showed this on a stream, Stunty, a month or two ago. I got a copy of this in the US, the SYPH.
Which one?
This is an absolute killer.
Oh yeah, yeah.
This is an absolute killer.
And
With
it's the one that
being
has that
involved.
song that feels like the Doors, right?
Yeah, the track you played is amazing, but the whole thing is a great journey, and like this at times is such little amount happening, but it's all so delicate and very intentional that
What
it's just.
year is that, Don? Would you say?
What is 81? I think it is 81.
It's a German punk band, and is it one of these that one of the ones that features Holger Schukai?
Yeah, he's
from
listed as co-producer and bass percussionist.
Yeah.
It's sort of a post-punk and dub record, but it's so subtle. It's almost like a minimal modern I think of it almost in a minimal composition way, just in its subtlety.
What's the name of that artist that you recently got one of his albums, like the American guy who like does dance and something, and you got volume 2 or 3?
I showed it recently, huh?
No, you showed to me that you got it. I don't think you showed it anywhere. Let me find his name. It's because I have
when we talk privately, you mean?
Yeah. Let me see if I can remember find the name here.
Yeah,
I have it listed.
He got it. I got one other SY. Is it just SIF or SYPA? I got one other one as well. It's great stuff.
There's 4 SIF albums worth having, in my opinion. Really worth having. Then there's a few that are like, where is it? Wait. Oh, Craig Kupka,
yeah. Cupcake.
Yeah,
but Cupcake.
Yeah. Not the ones on the folkways, but I'm talking about the ones on. Oh wait, sorry. I'm talking about the ones the dance and rhythm movements.
Yeah, I have the Modern Environments 2, which I got from Japan. Alex and I sort of did an order together, and that was one of the ones I imported from Japan. Which Japan, I know I started watching the stream from yesterday. I mean, that is like one of the best places to order records anywhere. Even in the US, it's like I get it 3 days later, and the shipping's like not horrible. I don't think. Yeah. Anyway, that's a sidebar. But
Richie, call me on all my bullshit about punk now.
No. I remember. I can't remember the name of the record store, but there was these. I think it was 2 Shellac singles, the 7 inches, when they first came out, and I bought them.
I think I have them.
And I had no idea. I had no idea who it was, but it didn't really do nothing for me. I compared to Big Black, I don't know. It just
these 2.
Yeah, those 2. Yeah, I didn't know who they were. I just bought them based on the look, the aesthetic, and.
If I'm being honest,
when I got the music on it, Rich.
What's that?
How would you describe the music on it, on those two singles?
I don't really remember. I listened to them when I first bought them, and I don't think I've listened to them again.
It's American
Oh,
punk
I
rock.
have you. I just have this one for singles, but I think this is the first Uranus.
I bought them in the rough trade shop when they were released, and with high anticipation. It's nice packages, and
Yeah.
like it's everything is nice about them. It's let me show like
I just
the
like
way
that what the guitar does. It's not, it's abrasive, but it's really got its own thing going on.
Oh yeah, they're also annoying because you have to fold open
Yeah,
them.
yeah,
Fuck that.
Oh yeah, well, like an envelope a bit.
yeah,
Yeah.
The
You just keep it on the outside.
good
It's fine.
IDs.
yeah. I just
Oh,
keep it on.
there's
I'm-
a whole like.
I'm gonna
spiel
have to
about it.
pull them out and give them a listen. I honestly don't remember what they sound like, but I'm constantly listening to my Big Black.
Yeah,
They're one of my favorite bands from the '80s.
Mhm.
it's
You know, there's that. It's the sound of those records too. They're so like tinny and metallic, and
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
think he used to use metal guitar picks.
that's right. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's right.
but despite all that,
I
Big
love
Black,
that.
the whole noise, they got killer melodies when they do. Not
Yeah.
every track, but they have some tracks that have like they're fucking hits. Like you hear
Yeah.
that, and it's catchy. It's not. This is not catchy. You
I-
might like it. It might be good, but it's not about being catchy. Give me that, Dom.
Well, absolutely. But who needs catchy? Who cares?
I remember
Well,
telling my friends back then, because they didn't. Most of my friends really weren't into punk. I used to tell them that Big Black are the new Led Zeppelin, and they'd just look at me like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
What about
But-
the Rate Man LP? How do you guys feel about that one?
It's been a while since I've heard that one too.
Steve Albini used to say that you could sample any random like 2 seconds from the Rape Man album and make a techno record out of it, which
see-
was, I guess, a time when he was, not his. Steve Albini had a period in his life where he was not always. He was kind of a bit like Iggy Pop has been in the past 25 years.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
How's
there's the ZZ Top cover on that one.
Hey, Daniel. Yeah,
Yeah,
when you hear Iggy Pop saying, "Oh, all techno and electronic music is horrible and gay and unmusical,"
Oh,
when he just go back and listen to his own album, "The Idiot," he's, in my opinion, like one of the best records of his career.
Mm.
Well, in France, we love Iggy Pop because he spends so much time in France and he gives so much love to France. But how do people perceive Iggy Pop nowadays in the US or in the UK for the matter?
I don't know, man. His body looks like it went through barbed wire. I'll tell you that much. He's a genetic freak, dude.
Yeah, but
I would say he's probably got the legend appeal.
Yeah, for sure, man. From the Stooges.
Yeah.
so is he still what we say in French, a good client for like late night shows and stuff like that? Like the guy you invite because you want to have good, takeaways from.
I'd say mostly. I'd say so.
Yeah.
Probably, but I don't know if he does that.
Oh, he does that in France
Yeah.
because he has the excuse of not understanding the language, so he can be offensive.
I'm always surprised when people talk about him and say how like he remembers every single thing, like every single story, all of the different people. Like his memory is like sharp.
Well, he
on-
obviously doesn't remember he was really into electronic music in the 70s.
Well, certain things you forget. Selective memory, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah. It's
Yeah, I never got into techno, so
I can understand that, honestly, Richie. I wouldn't fault you. Like it's also about. It's funny because Daniel here recently he asked me about like a couple of recommendations about techno albums, and I would hazard that you guys are both around the same age. Maybe I'm wrong. I've
I'm
never
58.
seen.
I have a feeling I'm the oldest fucker here.
You're not 70, Richie.
67.
67. Okay. So there's a whole generation gap between you
Yeah.
two. Yeah.
Well, Stumpy, you're
Music.
78, right? You're
I'm
78?
77.
Okay.
The year punk broke, as they said. Very
I
easy.
mean, I lived in Detroit for a while, and yeah, I made techno was huge during that time as well, and obviously that's where it started. And that time you helped me out, Stunty, those definitely came through.
Yeah. I guess for someone who wasn't there when it happened, or who isn't young and who's not out to party, you'd have to dig a little bit personally to find an entry door. Otherwise, I can totally understand why it would feel like it's something I don't need to investigate it. It's like I don't know if there's anything for me in there. I know I would, you and I, Richie, if we spent an afternoon and listening to, like, looking for a few records in techno, we'd find stuff that would interest you in the end.
Yeah.
Would it be to the point that you would seek it out by yourself? I mean, you're 67. You're 87. So it's. But
Yeah, I'm too old for that. I don't know. I just don't feel like going into another rabbit hole.
yeah, that's honestly fair enough. Considering, yeah, as long as you are open to the potential, to the idea that this music is as relevant as any other form of pop culture.
I probably actually have some 12 inches that are technically techno, but
You maybe have some because of Psychic TV.
yeah. I saw them in concert.
Would you say the KLF are techno or just electronic?
100%.
Yeah.
Even if they were mostly ambient, but the
Yeah.
album,
Because they were massive in the UK.
Yeah.
I remember.
This-
Yeah.
it's funny. It's one of these albums. This is the first pressing, and it still has printed on it, like,
Oh, yeah.
including the smash hits, which
Yeah,
usually means this is
yeah.
like a cheap repress. But
Yeah.
this was, in my opinion, the one album that put techno in the mainstream.
Yeah.
It was on TV for kids.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
We still see that
That's
all the time. that
87,
record.
isn't it? 87 was it? 87. Is that-
Later than that, I think. In 91. 91.
91,
They
yeah.
had been around before. But an interesting thing is that one of the two guys in this, he was one of the founding members of Big in Japan, Liverpool.
Big in Japan.
And he played at one point, I know he played with Pink Industry, great punk, post-punk band from Liverpool. And even he did some stuff with Budgie from Susie and the Banshees.
Yeah.
So, and just the fact, if you look at the picture of Bill Drummond online, Google it, the first picture you will see of him will be when he's at the Brit Awards or whatever, with an M16, a big cigar, and shooting blanks at the audience, throwing dead lambs with dead lambs carcasses filled with blood into the audience and saying, "This is our last gig ever. Fuck you," when they're winning Best Band of the Year.
What band is this?
KLF.
KLF?
Yeah.
Okay, why would they do that?
Because they were punks. They were literally saying, this is an award created by the industry to basically, that means nothing. It's
Pat yourself on the back.
Yeah, exactly.
Why they have such a difficult time with success? You get into music to make money and to make it, and then when you get success, they do that kind of shit.
Because there were. I mean, I love silly pop bands, but saying that the Monkees is art, even if I can like the music, these guys are artists, and they're basically using the platform to show a difference, which doesn't mean they're better, doesn't mean they're smarter. It's just showing that there's different ways of looking at it, different ways of thinking, and different ways that never get highlight in the media, in the mainstream. And that's what they did. They got the platform. They came from they come from the punk. So from the gloomy days of Thatcher, like horrible England, class society, and now they're being described as heroes. Like me, supposedly, like I'm suddenly a hero because I appeared on a Rachel stream, despite Michael saying I can't, supposedly. No one asking me if I can, if I did, or if it happened. No, it's just like putting the hypocrisy of all of this on the stage. Then what's interesting, Daniel, is that they didn't give you an explanation. It's still up to you to figure out what that means.
So after that happened, what was their route? Did they become more successful? Or
no, what they did is that out of the money they made of it, they took out from the bank £1 million sterling in bills and burned it. And they burned it.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's a bit much, man.
That's amazing. Okay,
and
so you know,
and they filmed it. Obviously, they filmed it, but they didn't make as much money back from the
right.
Well, and also Liam, you were talking about the Beatles and how right now a lot of that is being out in the bars or playing a lot of Beatles music and so forth.
Oh yeah. Well, they have a special weekend every year in Liverpool, International Beatle Week. So fans from Brazil, Argentina, Europe, you know, and they just.
Hey, is anybody here going to get the new Ringo single?
Yeah,
I already ordered it.
Yeah, I ordered the yellow version, of course, because Mazzy told us that it's the one that is going to get the biggest price after.
Yeah, peace and love, peace and love.
I mean, is there really a new Ringo or?
Yeah, yeah. All the Beatle channels are talking about it.
And is it anything new, or is it?
He's been releasing like EPs, like 2 a year.
EPs, Did you see his version of Rock Around the Clock? I mean, it's on YouTube. It's absolutely.
So it's music
terrible.
for kids. It's like for kids between like 5 and 8 years old.
No, it's for 40 and 50-year-olds that just can't get enough of that Beatle crap, you know. I mean, the Beatles are my favorite band, but come on, man. I don't think they've really done much since 72 or so.
Well, Ringo is... I don't know. I think, he had like a fling with a French yeye singer at one point.
Yeah.
Sheila. And in France, they still talk... When people say Ringo, it's almost always like Ringo and Sheila. Yeah, it's... and she was always corny. She was always like, the girl totally oblivious to anything that she's singing. Like, like living human beings living in a dollhouse and accepting it as a reality that everyone who works for them are real and have genuine emotions. And it feels like Ringo was the same, but totally aware that it was fake and decided, okay, that's a nice and cozy life anyways. Which is why he's still probably the ones in the best health.
Yeah. He was the oldest.
You're right.
Still alive.
Yeah.
I mean, when you see him, just the story about how he basically was almost like kicked out of the band of the Beatles for the recording of what was it? Which one was it? The
White
Album?
White Album. Yeah.
And it was kind of. Almost like a statement from him in a way, like, this is my lifestyle, and like, you guys can do whatever you want. I'm gonna be. This is my job in a way.
Yes, I'll
Yeah.
the bike ride to Barnes and Noble.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh,
He
sorry,
soon came back.
Which again, it's again, I'm a strong believer of the fact that making an economy around it is the big art. It's the most noble thing. If you can manage to make a living out of it, even if your music is selling out in a way, that is something that I have not necessarily admiration for, but at least respect for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's a good point. And it's kind of weird how some people like Kurt Cobain, they can't handle success. It's so weird to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the truth.
Yeah, well, you know this guy that in America everyone is trying to co-opt, like the right, like the redhead folk singer, rich man
Yeah,
from North of Richmond.
yeah, yeah.
So basically, he says that he refused $8 million contract. I don't know if it's true, but yesterday he went out and said that, dudes, guys, I'm not in cahoot with the Republicans. My song is actually about all the people that were on stage during that debate. Like these guys are total fools. Which of course now all these guys that for like 2 weeks were like, oh, this is our generation spokesman. He's telling it how it is and giving it to Biden. And now he's saying, no, that song was not about Biden at all. It was about you fools.
Well, they're both in the same bed.
Yeah,
All,
absolutely. But the fact that he said that and refused that money, however true it is, like the whole thing might be a side effect of what you were just telling. We now have all this distance. Man, I'm suddenly getting in the position of Kurt Cobain. I'm a nobody. I'm the loser that people were rejecting, and suddenly everyone loves me.
yeah,
Can I handle it? Man, like he only got 4 years, like 4 years after he got famous, and then he
Yeah.
had to help himself.
yeah.
That's a really short time. I was a teen, so it felt like it was a long time. But for you, Richie, it was like it went fast, right?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody around you be fake. You
Yeah.
wouldn't know who to trust.
That's true.
Well, it's just like maybe you don't want to start to think about that. You know that it happens, it's around you, and you decide to not care about it. But then that means you have to also start to reject emotions because you know people are going to disappoint you. So you have to be, numb to that. And obviously,
Yeah.
some need to take drugs.
Yeah.
I've
Drugs are always good. But I think Ringo has the best attitude. Just have fun with it,
Yeah.
Oh,
Say what you will about the guy, but he seems like he'd be a pretty cool guy to hang around with.
I agree.
I think he's been sober since the mid-80s, hasn't he? So he hasn't drunk.
I'll tell you, like,
30 years.
I'm gonna split everybody. I gotta cut.
Bye
Good to
bye.
see you.
Cheers.
A perspective I had, like when I had my short, like, techno career, like a hero of the underground, and when it's exactly that. Like, thankfully for me, I was like, or unfortunately for me, I was not taking drugs, but so you have all these people who wants to be your friend. Everything you describe, me on a very low level, but still, it's different than normalcy. And because you're doing underground music, people have all these ideas about you. And of course, I'm into much more underground music than techno, obviously.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they were all like, oh, you're not a sellout, like all these guys. And I was thinking, man, David Guetta and Skrillex and all these guys, if I get offered to DJ for 2 hours at the Rio de Janeiro Carnival for 200,000 people, I'm sure I'm going to find a way to have a ton of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a good
exactly.
life.
Why not,
Exactly.
Yeah. And get paid well for it.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean necessarily you have to sell out. It means that if you're smart,
Yeah, no.
you know who you are, what people like about you, and you just, you go to the center. You eliminate all the stuff. I like it, I love it, but I know it's not for everyone. I know I like it, even I know it's bad, but I love it. You don't play that. You just play the hits, the tracks that you know people love and that you
Yeah.
love as well. And then you're fine. It's
Yeah.
Well,
like,
it's just like what Richie was saying. I believe that is true as well. Some just can't handle it.
Yeah.
It's just way too much, and they just are not able to handle the fame.
Yeah. It's kind of sad, but
It is sad.
who do we
I
have
mean-
now that is on such levels or similar, who obviously on a daily basis in front of us shows us that they can't handle it? You know you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Britney
I would
Spears.
say, yeah,
Yeah, but she's
I
not
think
even
Yeah.
in
that's
the
pretty. Yeah,
public eye
it's kind of
anymore,
out
is
of it.
she?
Kind of, but not not top, not like a Taylor Swift or nothing. Yeah,
And
you're
not
right.
with
Yeah.
music anymore.
What about
Well,
Miley
she
Cyrus? Although she's doing quite well, I think she has ups and downs. Miley Cyrus, maybe a little bit.
No, but like
Man.
someone who's like a train wreck that like the
Oh,
guy,
you,
you know, the guy from the, what was it? The guy from the Hives or something like that. The English guy who used to date um, the supermodel. Ah, I forget. Anyway, someone will maybe know, but it's it's true that like back then with Kurt Cobain, we could see that everyone could.
yeah,
Of course, no one can say I saw it coming. Like I knew uh, exactly, but
Amy Winehouse.
yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
yeah.
that's a
I don't think there's anyone around now, though, is there? I mean, because we're even talking 10, 20 years ago, 30 years ago with those people, aren't we? Well, who's
Yeah,
around
you know
now?
what? You know what I think about that, Liam, is that it seemed like the trend is today. Bands got about 4 years,
I
and
think
they
it's always
just,
been like that.
it's always been that way.
Yeah,
Would you say?
if you're a new band and young, you have to have a hit or something different on your first album. Then they want your second album for the confirmation, and the third album is your last chance. If by the third album, which usually
Yeah.
takes 3 years, then remember what was this indie band from the 2000s with a black singer, Liam from England, that was Block Party.
yeah block
A
party.
block party, yeah.
Where are they now? And they were the biggest thing.
Yeah. Don't hear of them now.
But even then, you're going back. I think nowadays there really aren't that many bands in the mainstream.
No, there isn't.
It's kind of like, that kind of music's almost dead. I mean, it's still there, but it's not in the mainstream. It's not played on the radio,
Yeah.
at least
Yeah.
where I live.
No, but you're correct, and because most of the rock bands now are legacy bands. Like there's
Yeah.
very few bands. Like even when you think about it, old geezers like you and Mazzy will think that that Weezer is a new band, but of course it's not. It's like it's a
Yeah.
legacy band now, unfortunately.
Mm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just the
Yeah.
idea
Yeah.
of
The
all these,
idea of what's new,
Yeah.
it definitely varies on your age. That's for sure.
Yeah.
there's a band I played on my show that the guy comes from dubstep, and he did something very smart, very cool as well, which is basically he fusioned dubstep, the best of like grimy dubstep, very slow and like trap drums, with the grunge aesthetics, like early 90s, and not like the metal, like the
Yeah.
punk rock noise. And both of these things work so well together. He's called Komodo, and in a way, I agree with you. I don't want to call it new, but like as I'm always looking for something that like tilts the ears, like, oh, this is like creating something new. It's still a little bit postmodern. It doesn't exist in a vacuum. But the fact that you have to dig that deep to find one thing like that, like in the media, there's no chance. Like there's
Yeah.
a million, 1 million chance, 1 in a million. I mean,
Yeah.
that anything like that we would get. Like when you think about Burial in the UK, Burial is kind of known and sold a lot of stuff, but it's still underground, even if he became a figure and no one knows
Yeah.
who he is in the US, apart if you're really of a certain age and really into modern music. And maybe it's normal. Maybe it's just that we are also too used of these. Maybe it's just weird that something is famous worldwide to a point that it's global.
I think a big change is that the people that are in control of the music industry are not really into music. It's just another business. Whereas back in the old days, record companies used to take a lot of chances on bands, and if their first one didn't sell, they wouldn't drop them. They would just keep.
Yeah.
And it's not like that at all anymore.
Yeah, that's true. Like you would, like in the 60s, 70s, like there's all these bands who I'm saying that with love, but who Mazzy loves, that you see that it's easy to dismiss a complete section of their discography there and there. Like, oh, this album, because they had the luxury of having a friend in the higher ups in the label. That was enough for you to have a career. And as you said, you only have like 3-4 years nowadays. It was always like that, unless you had the. Back then, it's true that if you had initial success, it could last.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you had to have that, otherwise you disappeared. As now, the thing is that even if you have the initial success, no one cares, because we always need new young people, new beautiful faces and all that. If you look at all these guys, just imagine, look at the guys from Jethro Fall, how they looked like. You think they would stand a chance nowadays if they did the music that is making Justin Bieber super popular?
Yeah. Like a guy like Mac DeMarco, you know, he makes his own music and he doesn't really use a studio. So you think that's happening a lot?
Just using like their own house.
Well, what I'm
studio,
saying is that the record companies aren't even involved anymore.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, I see people on the VC showing records, and they're, oh, this one's $40, and this one's. Most of the records I buy, they're like 20 or under. You know, these bands that are releasing their own shit, and I guess my world is completely different than most people in the VC.
You're totally true. It's the big three who have this have decided. Here's the real truth. I know people in these companies, in the EMI, Sony Music, and all that. The position of the music industry now. What is the music industry? It's the people who sell the music by others. It's the industry that is made not by artists. That has, as you said, it's about business. So what they have now, the problem they have, is they have these jobs, and they have to justify their salary. That's the problem they have right now, which means that it's everyone for themselves. They have to find a way, the most cynical ways, to still justify to the shareholders. You still need to give me like 6-10K a month for that job. Which means that it's all fake. It's all fucking fake. And when I say that, I hate myself for using a word like fake, because it means nothing in a way. But it's they used to be. Some of them used to be in the position where they could champion a band, promote something, stand for
that used to happen quite a bit. I don't think that happens at all now.
And that was up in the 90s. It was still there.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Well, don't forget, you've got streaming's come into it now, hasn't it?
Big time.
The streaming side of things.
Big time, Liam.
Changed the whole horizon for it.
Hey, did Mazzy just leave a comment?
Yeah, he did.
He must have heard you talk. He must have heard his ears must have been burning. Maybe you were mentioning
the algorithm. But what I meant to say is that because they need to justify their salary. Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, what Mazzy said right there is very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably talked throughout the 70s there, isn't it? Throughout the 70s, with that kind of, they got more.
Someone said on Michael's stream yesterday, someone in Australia, I don't remember whom, but saying that an album by a mainstream artist, maybe Alanis Morissette or someone like that, the new one, the latest one, was costing them retail $110. I assume it's Australian dollars. It's still probably, I don't know how much it is, but it's still probably much more than what we're used to. You, Richie, you were saying that you're still paying $20 for the music I'm passionate about, like all this avant-garde. When I get them on Soundom, most of them are between $17 and $23, $24.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
Well, and also, Richie, a lot of that music you're buying, maybe at some day, if you're looking for a return, that
Yeah,
might be worth a lot of money in the future too.
No. It's his daughter who's looking for a return. He's not looking for a
no.
return.
My daughter has no interest at all.
No, but
Indeed.
she'll have an interest in selling these records as fast as she can, right?
But just make sure you leave
yeah.
your password to Discogs somewhere safe for the family members.
But to go to the end of my thinking there, if you have to justify your salary, that means you have to make money. And as you have such a smaller tent pole of artists who are mainstream, your catalog, because all the other artists have understood, I can make the money myself. I don't need these fuckers. They're parasites for me.
Yeah, that's
So
exactly.
basically-
Yeah, they cut them out.
So
They do.
so basically the only leverage they have is by leveling up the price of their products. That's the only way they can still justify their salary anymore.
Yeah.
And that's the reality. Like people saying, "Oh, but the licensing rights and all that." No. It's the labels who own the rights who do that the most.
Yeah.
Like when you will get this next year, the 30-year anniversary version of In Utero by Nirvana, it will be like a $65 record, single LP.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
And there will be a version that will be 200 for sure.
Right. And the record companies are making money off of streaming.
But the thing, Daniel,
But
is
the
that they've
artists
already
are-
made back all their
are-
money on that record by the million folds.
Yeah.
It's not about that anymore. When people say they could, Mazzy used to say that before. Now I think he's understood that. He used to say, but they already made back their money, so they shouldn't be needing to. But it's not the same people who have these jobs anymore. Or if
Yeah.
they are, they really need to give a good reason for their salary to the shareholders. So that's the only leverage they have, and it's on us, not on the shareholders. Which is
May
why
I bring up something totally different? Free jazz. I've been trying to learn more about that and trying to understand the next step for myself. How do I learn more about that? This free jazz just seems so upside down to me right now.
Yo-yos.
It's Daniel. In a way, it's a fair question, but it's also an odd one in the sense that no one is forcing you to listen to it.
Yeah.
That's
And-
true. But I mean, I have learned so much over the last 9 months.
Yeah.
I got into ambient, disruptive, and I think I'm ready to get into free jazz.
That's a rabbit hole that I don't want to go down, I'm afraid.
I mean, let's put it that way. If you are a young guy who is like 14, who's starting to think that music is important in his life, and you're listening to the stuff that you should be listening to at that age. Let's say it's if you're a girl who's 13 in 1999, maybe it's Britney Spears. Going from Britney Spears to Cecil Taylor, there needs to be stages in between. I know that some people claim that no, I don't need that. I more power to you if you're in that position. I wasn't, and I call bullshit on that. But who cares if I'm right or wrong about it? It's if you think of different styles as different languages, like foreign language. Okay, for you don't understand it, so it's this for you listening to free jazz is similar as if you were listening to Russian. You don't understand where the word is in the sentence, where you hear the sounds, but they mean nothing to you or very little. And maybe you can fool yourself. So basically, you just need to expose yourself to it if you have a desire, either just regular jazz, modern jazz. And it's just don't think that you can take shortcuts. That only works in the VC.
Because there are moments when I really enjoy it, and then all of a sudden it takes it away.
It falls apart,
Yeah, it just
Yeah.
goes. I mean, it's just all over the place.
But okay, I have the personal experience with that with jazz and free jazz, but Richie, don't you have that experience that something new, a new genre or a new style you discover through one artist and you like it, and then you follow that genre, and then a few years later you realize, oh shit, I really like that artist, but I was interested in that genre, but it took a while to click that, oh, now it's like a now it's like a mother tongue. But
You
I
know,
was
I went to a Public Image concert, and in between the bands, I found out later Johnny Rotten or John Lydon, he was in control of what they were playing. They were playing this heavy dub. I mean,
yeah.
and it was like torture for me. It was just God. I was like pulling my hair out, you know. But now I'm into that. I love dub music now.
Yeah.
But back then, man, it was horror. It was just oh, this is
It's a good
terrible.
point.
See, this I remember I used to go to jazz record stores because I was looking for other kind of music, and I thought it's a jazz record store. They buy collections. There might be other types of records in the collection. They don't care about it, and I get it for much cheaper than if I buy it in a rock store. I remember I got really good deals that way. But of course, I'm hanging out in the jazz store, and one time they're playing "Out to Lunch" by Eric Dolphy, a record from 1964. So it is free jazz in a way, but it is actually really modern jazz that has some free elements in it. And I hear that and I love it. And it's a 90 euro record. It was in 2002. And at that time, I had never paid that much for a record. And I got to have it. And I managed to, instead of buying the 6 records I meant to buy, I buy this one. And after that, I start to go to jazz record stores and listen and buy stuff. And for 2 years, I'm buying stuff, listening, learning, enjoying it. And after 2 years, I don't remember which records, but there was something that, oh, it was like, a click that everything is different suddenly without anything being different. It's just like for these 2 years, I loved Eric Dolphy's Out to Lunch. I actually didn't like that much his other records, and I was learning about the rest. I was not in love with jazz. It took 2 years to make it into a mother tongue. And now if I go to a jazz gig and if it's good jazz, there's nothing that feels as natural to me, to my body, and how I enjoy live music. But really, for 2 years, I wouldn't go as far to say I was fooling myself, but there's this construct of that you have about yourself, about who I am, what I like, etc. And sometimes you're kind of fooling yourself.
Yeah, like
It
Justin
doesn't mean
says,
that you don't have to take the journey.
that'd be a good entry point, as what Justin says.
Yeah. But then again, Eric Dolphy has very different records, so it depends which one. Like if you take Iron Man and Out to Lunch, I would suggest these because they will give you a glimpse of free jazz as well. If you take the stuff he was doing in the 50s, I would say, then it will maybe hold you back in a way, because that's how he felt doing these records, by the way. Unpopular opinion, by the way, but I love Eric Dolphy. He's a wonderful human being from all accounts. You can read about him, and yeah. But free jazz, the first time I heard free jazz, the album Ornette Coleman, I had already been into jazz for a little while, and that is not challenging at all. This feels quite tame actually, and for me it's difficult to go back to understand what is so free and so trailblazing about it, because I was born after it and I benefit from all the people who benefited from that, who became musicians. So it's like basically if you were if you like imagine if you're 15 and you are into uh, corn, Limp Bizkit and stuff like that, and suddenly someone tells you, "Oh, you like that? You should love Black Sabbath."
Yeah,
It's not going to work like that.
You know this band?
Why?
Leben
No.
den Toten. No, I understand the meaning, but
Yeah, I don't understand the meaning, but this is free jazz to me, man. This is just noisy. This is one of the noisiest records I have,
wow,
man.
it
And it's
means living death. The act
okay.
of actually living the dying.
It's a great record.
Hey, Richie, put that back up again real quick, if you don't mind.
Yeah, you can
Stunty, I'm going to shoot.
you can
Bye.
check them out on YouTube, but they
Okay. Yeah.
It's
Thank
a-
you, brother.
Have a
it's
great,
a no,
have a great
no it's a
season, guys.
it's a bunch of
That's really
noise.
Keith,
Bye,
Daniel,
Liam.
I'm getting off. See you guys.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go to my battery's like at less than 10%. So it's been good.
Yeah, it's nice having a fun
Yeah.
conversation and not having to justify ourselves after that.
Yeah.
But,
You know, I was gonna say one thing and I forgot about Black Flag. I guess you don't like Black Flag.
so, yeah,
When I used to see them in concert, man, there was like so much energy. It was just like nothing else. And then after their first album, they got into legal problems, and they couldn't release a record for like 3 years. And they were at the peak of their creativity at that point, and it really put a damper on everything they released after. I don't know. I don't really think they ever really reached their potential.
well, I think one of the issues, I mean, the story of Black Flag is really cool. Like the whole how Henry Rollins became the singer and all that. It's
Yeah.
quite fun to read about or to hear them talk about it. And of course, as you say, the energy, seeing it live must have been tons of fun, and also disruptive and all that. It's just that, as I was saying, like from my perspective, I know, and I'm not saying I'm right again, but the difference I make between punk and punk rock. Punk rock is American. There's rock in the title, in the name. There's a reason for that. But really, like the guys from the UK, they were still trying to do. They wanted to do music, whereas American punk rock is almost more. It's like a social thing, like a political thing, where the music
I gotta
is.
go myself. Sorry.
Bye, Daniel. I know it's not completely, right to say that. Okay. No,
Yeah, it's not black and white.
yeah,
But
do you see where I'm coming from with that?
The whole hardcore thing, it really didn't have melody in it. But there were still punk bands that did. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I played one yesterday on my stream, which I was wondering if you were aware of them. The Units.
No.
And they were so punk that they didn't use guitar. It was only synth.
Yeah, that's like the Screamers. You know them?
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't have any guitars.
This is super catchy. This is like their great hooks, super also like dramatic. Like
is that like early 80s?
This is from 1978 or 1980. Let me play just for you.
I think I have heard them, but I don't have anything by them.
You tell me if this is punk or not. I was being a bit facetious yesterday and saying this is the greatest American punk song ever, and to a certain extent I believe that. But
see, everything's punk to me. Yeah, that's good. Do they have vocals?
Super catchy, isn't it?
Yeah.
And totally the energy you want from any punk record.
I like the primitive keyboards back in those days.
Yeah, and that's one of the. I think you understand me probably better than quite a few others here. How this is the way I connect with the avant-garde, all this experimental shit, which is I don't come to it from like an intellectual perspective. I can have that, but I'm fine with just it being cool and disruptive and being noisy and chaotic.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I try not to overanalyze my music.
I'm a journalist, so sometimes again I always say like the work of a journalist is putting words that everyone understands in the same way at the same moment to describe something very abstract,
Yeah.
which is a challenge. And after a while, you get better at it. But you know, when Michael 45 he tells me, "Oh, it's so difficult, I can't talk." Yeah, I know, I understand, but like it's a job, or it takes practice, like just
I
about
didn't
everything.
I didn't know journalism was still a thing.
Well, you know the reason. Yeah, it's difficult, and the reason is because it's impossible to be a journalist because there's not enough money in it. So it's only young people who can afford to be a journalist. And if you're young, and as soon as you need more money, you stop. Which means there's very few people who have continuity, who have
Yeah.
like 20, 30 years of experience, so that they can have distance. And that's the problem. That's the doom of music culture journalism nowadays. I think that even when you have some who do that, they can only afford to do that for like 10 years or so. So that's not really meaningful for us.
Yeah.
Anyways, Wax is saying that it's disco what I just played. Well, if that's disco, then disco is punk. And I think
Yeah,
most people would agree that disco is punk.
it did have some disco, but I agree. That wouldn't have happened if there wasn't punk. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
totally. It was literally, these guys were from San Francisco, and it was like a rebellious stance. Like, we're not going to have guitars. Guitars are conservative.
Yeah.
So however childish you might find it, it is. And again, for me, punk is really not an aesthetic. It's about why you do things. I'm
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it to a large extent. I mean, my definition of punk, it embraces a lot of different styles, and people go, "Oh, that's not punk." Well, you know, to me, it is.
Yeah, just seeing, you know, if you go to certain areas in London nowadays, where like the punks gather on the Saturday afternoons, the ones with all the right clothes, the right haircut. There's nothing punk about that. That's tourism.
Yeah, that's a uniform.
Yeah, exactly. And if you understand anything about punk, you understand that's exactly it, Richie. You said it
Yeah,
perfectly.
yeah.
Anyways,
I'm gonna go.
yeah, it was nice chatting,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
yeah. I always enjoy talking to you, Stunty.
Thank you. And we're the two guys who constantly hide our real names, huh? People think
Yeah,
you're Richie,
yeah,
huh?
yeah, yeah.
All right.
Bye.
Bye bye, everyone. No. Yeah. So for those who watch this and want to catch some of what you missed, I'm not gonna keep this on my channel. I'll leave it till tomorrow, and then I will take it away. And that's it. And go support Deadwax66 and do more videos. Bye bye.